Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another week of Game Wisdom Live. This is our weekly show talking about industry topics and catching up with everybody about what's going on with Game Wisdom. This is the week of February 10th, 2017. Yesterday we had a big storm that kind of put a delay on things, but it seemed like it was for the better as a lot of interesting things happened today. We got another Patreon supporter. I think we're up to $47, $48 in terms of the monthly. So we're just about halfway to the first goal of $100. And thank you. And hello to you, El Gordo. And thank you to everyone who is donating on Patreon. We're getting close to that halfway point, and we can hit 100. It will mean adding more content, including looking back at some retro PlayStation games. Hello, XP, as well. Also, in some interesting news, there is a big announcement from Valve today with Steam Direct and the removal of Steam Greenlight, which was today's critical thought. We'll be talking more about that later in the stream. And for next week, the next Dissecting Design will be of The Binding of Isaac. Last week I decided to do it of Clockwork Empires. And if you guys have any suggestions for games that are interesting enough to take a look, definitely let me know. But let's get on with things. So, joining me again, as always, my co-host, James Ellerby.
Hey, how you doing, guys?
Hey, James, it's great to have you on. How are things going with you? Did you get hit all at bad with the
Oh
snowstorm
yeah.
yesterday?
Oh yeah. We got some snow, so that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, and we got a few inches. It wasn't too bad. I've been working at a temporary job the last few days. I got 3 more days next week, so it is time. I won't be able to do stuff around here, but it is a little extra money in the pocket, so that's always good. And let me see. Yep, and the guys are saying hi to you as well, James.
Yes, how you doing, guys?
And well, you should load up the Twitch stream as well if you get a chance.
Yeah, I'll have to do that.
Mm-hmm. So, lots of interesting games this week as well. I went from at the start of this week having like nothing to play to having 4 or 5 games, I think, in my backlog, or in the current backlog, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
So, I've been playing Nioh, which you guys are probably enjoying the YouTube recordings or the Twitch stream, and I'm really enjoying that game. And I know Nier Automata is coming out, I think, next month. That's the sequel to Nier. I think it's done by Platinum Games. And what I found very interesting, and then we talked about this last week, was that Neo is developed, of course, by Team Ninja, and I think this is their first like solo developed project in the last few years. You were
Mm-hmm.
telling me about some of the games they made on the PSP, and I think a lot of them they were like a joint collaboration, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. A lot of them were.
Hmm. So Neo, I'll probably have a review up next week about it. I'm definitely moving quite fast through it now. Although there was one night that someone got to watch me struggle on one boss for like 40 minutes long. There was just one fight that was just kicking my butt. I just could not get by him, and then it finally broke. But that was like the most frustrating part of the game so far. But
Mm-hmm.
since then, there's a lot of the game that it doesn't really tell you about, with like the forging of new weapons and the rarity system. That if I
Yeah.
get a chance, I'm gonna make like a little advanced guide to Neo for the YouTube channel, because I
Oh
know,
yeah, I think that'll go over really well.
yeah, a lot of people loved my Darkest Dungeon guide. I think that one has like over like 40,000 views at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of the Darkest Dungeon, they just released a new patch, the Radiant update. I don't know if it's going to the PlayStation version, but this is the one that was designed to make the game shorter to play. So instead of like
Mm-hmm.
an 80-hour play, it's like only 40 hours. So
Yeah.
it may not be all that shorter, but it will probably be a lot easier for people who struggle with it, and especially that late game grind we were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Still no word on the first expansion. Of course, the Dissecting Darkest Dungeon. That has crossed my mind to do one on that game. I'll
I
have to
think
add
you
that.
should.
Yeah,
I think that's kind of long overdue, man.
yeah. Especially after all the hours I put into it. I think that was like the
Mm-hmm.
first really big game on the YouTube channel.
And it'll also be kind of cool to revisit a game like that for yourself, like
Hmm.
not as someone just playing through it, but also, really digging in there and taking a look at it from a uh, uh, from a development point.
Yeah. Hmm. And this weekend, I also have to upload to YouTube our Sandy Peterson interview that was posted on the site last week, and
Hmm.
I'll post the audiocast version on YouTube. That was a lot of fun talking to Sandy, and hopefully we can get him back on sometime this month for a live discussion.
Yeah, that'd be kind of cool.
Let's see the other games I've been playing. Oh, this is one. I've been talking with Cliff Harris, who runs Positech, and he's
Hmm.
currently working on the game Production Line, which is essentially, let me make sure I got the name right. Yeah, Production Line, which is basically Big Pharma, which was a game we talked about a few years ago. It was basically
Hmm.
about the assembly line of designing pills. So you design all the machinery, you design the whole layout. It's basically like a min maxer's dream. And
Uh-huh.
his next game is basically you're going to do auto assembly. So you're going to try and design a automotive assembly line. So you have like the
Huh.
different parts coming in. You have to manage where resources go, how quickly you can create a car, get it out there, and of course make money on it. It is still super early though.
Hmm.
I think he's like at alpha like 1.0 right now. I think he's been working on it since October last year. So I got a press key from him, and I'm also in talks with him to hopefully have him on for a quick podcast at some point because he's always a lot of fun to talk to. He does both indie developing and he's also an indie publisher now as well.
Oh, really? He's into indie publisher now
Hmm.
too.
Yeah,
Cool.
he published Big Pharma, which was I forget the name of the guy who developed it, but I talked to him like 2 3 years ago. So I guess this is his version of it. I think I'm actually not sure if he's developing it by himself or if he's working with a team, but
Hmm.
it's looking very interesting. Again, I'm really enjoying those. My eyes just decided to dry out on me. Sorry, I'm just worrying my eye a lot. But I'm really enjoying those kinds of min-maxing games. Like we talked about Factorio several times on the live stream. And that's another game that I really like. I hope it's going to get done soon. I know they've been working for like 2 3 years now.
Hmm.
And I also heard that Subnautica may be wrapping up. I want to say in August, but I don't know for sure. Did we talk about Subnautica before? Do you know what that game is?
Oh yes, I do know what the game is. I have a friend that's been plowing through it and
Hmm.
enjoying it. So.
Yeah. I actually like them. I think that of these survival games that I play, I think that's my current favorite. Just because they really tone down a lot of these survival elements compared to stuff like The Long Dark, which, for those of you who miss it, that was basically an hour of me dying over and over and over again. And then I got eaten by a bear. And then we died again.
You said he got eaten by a bear?
Yeah. And then at one point I fell off a cliff too.
Oh,
So
really?
that is definitely a fun game to play if you just want to see the frailty of human life right there. Or if you really enjoy watching Survivor Man and think you're the next Les Shroud. Or a Bear Grylls if you watch Man vs. Wild back in the day.
Uh,
Let's see. Other than that, I got a few other press copies I want to take a look at. I got one for a game called Brutal with the A is replaced by an at sign. I think it's based on an older game, so I'm going to try and take a look at that as well.
hmm.
And other than that, I'm going to try and get a video for production line maybe sometime over the weekend or next week. I started recording the Dissecting Design for next week's discussion, and I think people are really liking those videos. So far, I've gotten a lot of compliments about more of like a deeper look at these games, but with the added help of the game itself.
Hmm.
So I figure we'll keep doing that at least once a week. And it seems to be helping. I mean, we're closing in on 1,200 subscribers right now, so that's always
Uh-huh.
nice.
Hey, I say more subscribers. We'll take more subscribers as much
Hmm.
as we can get, right?
Definitely. So, with that, I think that does it for me in terms of what I've been playing. What about you, James?
Definitely been rocking the For Honor right now. Like, it's a beautiful game. I have a lot of friends that are playing it, and aside from uh, their um, a desire to go to. I guess they didn't go to with dedicated servers.
Mm,
So it's basically host based on host
mm,
just host servers, which kind of that can get kind of wonky.
yeah.
But aside from that, I think the game is really interesting.
Hmm.
It's a lot of fun, and it very much is a mixed bag of
Yeah.
genres. Have you yeah, go for it. What do you think of it?
It definitely. It feels like one part of an Overwatch, like that team-based gameplay,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it
how's
also
that feel?
has like that fighting game feel because it feels
Yep.
very one-on-one. And
Uh-huh.
then you have the Dominion mode, which is just it feels like a more
Like
action
a
take.
MOBA.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like an action MOBA. Yeah. Well, and the fighting game aspect is more than just like the 1v1 combat.
Hmm.
A lot of the fighting game aspect for me comes from the fact that you really need to know your character.
Hmm.
If you do not know your character, then you are not going to have a good time in the game. And it
Yeah.
very much has that fighting game feel of, oh wow, this early game is, yeah, you're either going to love the early game because you're going to get it automatically, or you're going to hate the early
Yeah.
game because, oh my god, I don't understand these mechanics. The tutorial section was, did you do the tutorial?
I did the basic tutorial. Someone told
Okay.
me there was an advanced one as well.
Yes, you have to do the advanced.
Yeah.
And that's, I don't know if I'd say that is good to the credit of the game or
Hmm.
bad to the credit of the game. I would just say neutrally,
Hmm.
any new players get looking to play the game,
Yeah.
do the advanced tutorial and work the tutorial a bit.
Hmm.
And even that's not going to be everything. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
You're gonna have a lot of nuances that you just aren't gonna get
Yeah.
from
Definitely.
yeah. Mm.
Yeah, it's going to be like I said when I played it like 2 3 weeks ago. It's going to be very interesting to see how Ubisoft's going to approach the post-release support for the game. I know
Mhm.
they've already are advertising a season pass, which will add in more heroes as time goes on.
Mhm.
And I think the real question for me about For Honor is just what kind of legs does it have? Because it is very much a multiplayer game. Now, I have heard it does have a single player component to it, but they're
Yes.
saying it's very much single player, to check the box off. Like, this is really a multiplayer game.
Yes, I would definitely I'd go with this is the action a action fighting version of Call of Duty, like
Hmm.
as far as that's kind of concerned. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you're not playing Call of Duty. Most people don't play Call of Duty for the single player. Well, however robust the single player might be, most
Hmm.
people are like the majority of
Yeah.
people are not playing it for that.
Hmm. Yep, and again, like we can see this with each of the iterations, just the extensive amount of work that's done with the multiplayer, the perk systems, and how that has been really refined to a T in terms of getting you to play in that one more turn feel. Now,
Hmm.
with something like For Honor, have you taken to any of the characters yet?
Oh, yes, the Conqueror, the mace, the guy that uses the mace and the flail.
Okay.
I love him. I'm just love how he has that feel of a big guy, of a big slow guy, and there's so much complexity
Hmm.
to it that
Uh, I
that
think.
however yeah, sorry, so
Yeah,
go ahead.
I was gonna say the character that I liked was it was the samurai, the assassin. I forget
Oh,
the actual name.
the Orochi, the quick one.
It's the one I think that's furthest on the right, like of that list of the 3x3. It's
Yeah, okay, the Orochi, yeah,
yeah,
then you're talking about the Orochi, yeah.
yeah, like the one that like if you time your attack just right, you will automatically parry enemies.
Hmm.
You can just do a lot of quick attacks that way. I
Yes.
started liking the one with the spear, but I heard everyone say like that's like the most overpowered character in the game. So,
I've spent a couple of a little bit complaining about the
mhm.
about that character. Yes, I have. Gotta admit, yes, I have.
Yeah, so that's why I decided to switch to that one. Definitely liking it. And again, going back to what we were just saying with the heroes that are going to add in, it's going to be interesting to see like how they're going to, I guess, flesh out the combat systems with new characters. Because when you play each character, they really do feel different in a sense. Like,
Oh
doesn't.
yeah, oh yeah. They took, you could tell they took a
Mm-hmm,
lot of time and love and care went
mm-hmm,
into making a lot of these characters, and some good knowledge too. I mean, I'm not the most well, I've, martial arts wise,
mm-hmm,
I definitely have a decent head on my shoulders when it comes to that kind of stuff. But they really did their homework on how a lot of these guys fight.
mm-hmm. Yeah, and I just wonder how that will impact things going forward with new heroes. Because whenever you add
Oh
in a new
yeah.
hero to a game, especially a competitive based game, you
Uh-huh.
always
You have to.
have to balance it with everyone else in
Yep.
there.
Yep. And one of the things I'm really going to look forward to, not just hero in general,
Mm-hmm,
but faction. I think if they what are they going to do if they decide to add in a new faction like Native Americans or the
mm-hmm,
Mayans or the Incas, or there's a lot of warrior cultures out there that
mm-hmm,
they could add in there, and
mm-hmm,
I want to know how they're going to do that and still keep the balance, still have the variety. I mean, like, you're right.
mm-hmm,
It's almost like I think updating this game is going to be more MOBA like
mm-hmm.
than not.
Yeah,
I mean, more MOBA like than any, because anytime you're doing a MOBA or a MOBA slash, I guess, what's the new thing on the block, a hero based
yeah.
shooter. You know what I mean? Anytime you do that, like, even I've seen a lot of talks with Blizzard developers that are working on Overwatch, and they are working on a character for months,
Mm-hmm,
trying, not just how that character works against other characters, but how that character works in its environment, in the world.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, how does that character traverse the world, move through the world,
How are
act
they
in the world?
different in the
How
world?
different in the world, and especially with For Honor, there's hazards. There's a lot of world-based hazards.
Mm-hmm,
How is this character going to deal with those? Both offensively and defensively. I think we're going to be seeing. I'm hoping that we're going to be seeing a lot of play coming out of For Honor.
mm-hmm. What did you find a preferred mode that you like to play in?
Ah, I've been not. That's weird. Not really.
Mm,
And I say that, okay, I say that like this. The more I play the game and
mm-hmm,
understand my character more, the more you put your character into each one of the different situations, 1v1 brawl. Well, let's put it this way. Anytime that if you're in Dominion, which is
mm-hmm,
the MOBA like one, you're
mm-hmm.
gonna find yourself in 1v1 fights. You're gonna find yourself in 2v2 fights. You're gonna find yourself in 1v3 fights. But the very fact that you find yourself in all of those situations, when you make the transfer to deathmatch or duel or brawl,
Mm-hmm.
you're kind of already equipped to deal with that.
Yeah.
Because, I think Dominion is a good start mode and for people, and then as they grow and become comfortable with Dominion and seeing how the different fights are, I think duel and deathmatch are going to be, they're going to like it's going to, this game is all about finding your character, finding your play style, and really working it to the bone. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think with that, I think for me, I prefer, I think, the one-on-one or 2v2 fights. I found Dominions to be a little hard to keep track of what was going on. It felt like the camera was zoomed out a little further than what I would have liked. And it just made it
Hmm.
hard for me to kind of read like the tells of fighting, which for those of you who haven't played For Honor yet, it is very much about reading your enemy, seeing where their attacks are coming
Mm-hmm.
from, what they're doing, are they stunned, are they, can you get in for a finishing blow, stuff like that.
Now, when you were, and here's something I know that you don't play a lot of fighting games, or like that's not your main forte.
Mm-hmm.
But when you were playing, who were you watching, yourself or your opponent?
Mm. Um,
Wh- which the answer to that question really will inform a lot of people. And there's not, and I'm saying that because I would like to know, like, which one did you really look more towards?
I think I was trying to watch the opponent more while I was
Hmm.
playing.
That is where I think it really differs from a lot of fighting
Mm-hmm.
games. When you're playing a fighting game, you pretty much have a base understanding, and even from a lot of the pros, you have a base understanding of where you're at versus the character. So you want to watch what the person that's coming at you is doing, and move to counter that, or to you watch your opponent. And in this game, they've put and this is mechanically, as from a martial arts person and perspective, this is something very different from combat. This is the big break from combat to video game. They put a lot of tells for you to see on yourself where attacks are coming from, which gives you a lot of leeway to create some really good plays. But if you don't, and it's something I would definitely tell to new players, watch yourself. You can learn a lot by looking at your guy, and you'll see markers of where to block, where to actually block, which can keep you safe from not just one person, but especially if you're playing Dominion, from multiple attacks. Which it's prevalent in that kind of game. It's just like a MOBA. You're almost never going to be in a 1v1 situation in a MOBA, and that's one of the few. This is one of the few games where I'd say keep an eye on yourself first and your opponent second.
And it's very interesting to play a game like this because there really isn't too many games that combine these kinds of mechanics together. Now, I guess another question for you: what did you think of kind of the progression model? Like, in terms of you level up, you get new outfits, and then completing battles gets you like possible gear drops. And from what I saw, the gear seems to be each slot essentially has like 3 different modifiers or 3 different attributes associated to it.
Yeah. I want to say that I enjoy it, but I want to also say that I want to say that I can't fully make a comment until the full game releases. And when the full game releases, let's put it this way. On my positive side, I want to go, wow, this is really cool. It's going to create diversity. 2 people can play a character completely different ways because of the build. It also allows you to do different things. I have found myself using different skills in Dominion than I would in Brawl, in Brawl or Deathmatch. In Deathmatch, rezzing is king. Getting your partners up, executing your enemies and getting your partners up as soon as possible is king. So having a feat that helps you res or having a weapon attachment that helps you res faster is good, is really good. Not really so much in Dominion. Like in Dominion, there's just so much going on, and you're more likely to get like ganged up on, and you have minions there. Like, so trying to stop and res a buddy, you're not going to do that in a fight. You're not going to. The only time you're going to do that is if the fight's already over. And if the fight's already over, it doesn't really matter how long it takes for you to get the person up. So little areas like that, I'm like, oh wow, that's going to create diversity, and it's kind of cool. More my negative side says is, this better not become Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. This better not become Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. Wait, I haven't seen a price tag for any of the loot boxes other than in-game currency, which in-game currency I'm fine with. I work in the game. I get good at the game. I play matches. I get in-game currency to buy stuff to make myself better. It's the reward for playing the game. That's fine. Yeah, and I guess what's fun when I was doing 2-on-2, we basically did the honorable thing. We waited for the person to finish before we joined, so we kept making like 1-on-1 fights. We were just like saying, "Oh, you 2 finish, and then I'll see if I can clean up afterwards." Kind of thing. Remarkably, I've seen that happen more than just kind of, it's a 2v2 duel, blah 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 blah, head attack, like chaos. Actually, I've made friends with 2 people on. I was just today, like a couple hours ago, 2 guys that it literally went. We won 1, they won 1. We won 1, they won 1, and then we won the last round. And each and every time, it was a 2v2, a 4-man match, and anytime someone would win a duel, they would go over to where the other 2 people were fighting and wait.
Yeah, that's what we did.
Sit there, wait until the person either lost or won, and then if the opposite person won, those 2 would duel and whatnot. And even more importantly, they would let you execute, which that seems so small, but especially for people that haven't played the game, when you execute a person in For Honor, you get a bit of your health back, which can change everything.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine if, for any of you pure fighting game purists out there, imagine if every time in uh Marvel versus Capcom 2 3v3 man
Mm-hmm.
brawls, anytime you knocked out a person, you got some health back.
Mm-hmm.
Like that would change it changes a lot of stuff. Your strategy becomes different. So it would almost behoove you to, after you're done dueling your person and execute them to get some of your health back, and you're watching the brawl, not letting your partner get executed, at least, so that you have an
Mm-hmm.
advantage in the fight. But people really are taking this
Mm-hmm.
for honor to and on PlayStation no less. Which I'm not gonna say what I want, but about PlayStation people, I love my PlayStation people. I'm one of those PlayStation people. I can talk about them, but you're seeing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd love to see what actually happens.
Mm-hmm.
How the community, what kind of community rises from For Honor is
Yeah.
also going to be a thing that I'm really excited to see.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And I guess the last thing to talk about For Honor, and then we'll move on. What did you think about sort of like the meta game with the different territories, trying to take things over, stuff like that?
Honestly, confusing.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of the other faction stuff, like in Mortal Kombat X,
Mm-hmm.
the faction was so simple.
Yeah.
It just took care of itself. Hey, which faction do you want to join? Oh, this one. Okay, cool. Just do what you would normally do when you were playing the game without the
Mm-hmm.
factions, and you'll gain points. Here, I don't think they did a really good job of explaining what's happening. Also, if you just jump in and you're kind of you probably won't even see it
Mm-hmm.
until yeah, very confusing. I'm not confusing in a, oh my god, I don't like it. More
Mm-hmm.
confusing in a, I think it's going to be a little more in
Yeah.
depth than I think either maybe it needs to be or that anybody asked for, which could be good. Could be good. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. El Gordo's commenting in chat. Just wait for the kids to enter and ruin the camaraderie. And 360 quick executed brawl. I own your mom. That's what's going to happen to For Honor.
Yeah, let's put it this way. I expected that from the beta. Now
Mm-hmm.
this is open. I'm playing open beta right now, which
Mm-hmm.
means anybody can get on there, even including those, three skip 360. I quick scoped your mom. You know what I mean? Even those kind of kids. And actually, the people that I made friends with were kind of younger. You could tell they were younger. But it was, again, like I said, I'm gonna try to stay childish. I'm gonna try to stay positive. I
Mm-hmm.
want I want to stay positive and see what kind of there have been I brag about this all the time. Warframe, the community on Warframe. Now Warframe is a PvE mostly game, so say what you want about that, but a Warframe community has been very, very friendly, very helpful. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Very respectful. So yeah, we'll see. Yeah. Yes, all don't condone that thing.
Yeah.
The devs control the toxicity. Yeah, very true.
Mm-hmm.
Very true. And we'll see what the devs do with toxic. There's not a lot of talking in the game.
Mm-hmm.
So aside from it's the grin here.
Yeah.
Aside from getting a random PSN chat message, there's not a lot of talking.
Mm-hmm.
And the talking in it is controlled. You can say good game. You could say like over there, thanks, stuff like
Yeah.
that. So, did you notice that, Josh?
Yeah, it was very. Things did kept to be very friendly there. I mean, I didn't see anything too bad, but again, I didn't play it too long.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. What was the point I was about to say? Oh, I think one thing that's going to be very interesting to see like what they're going to do in terms of rewards for winning it. I know I saw something like there may be like rare tattoos or rare cosmetic items.
Yeah, isn't there supposed to be like a
Yeah.
tournament styles and stuff and tournament play,
Mm-hmm.
something like that, and not like pro gamer, but like local, like I mean like kind of like world tournament kind of stuff that's going on, which is going to be kind of interesting. I'd like to see what they do with that. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? I think they have a lot of room to grow, and I think they left themselves a lot of room to grow in the game, which I think is really good. And I think if they make good on it, I think we're gonna see some really interesting stuff come out of it.
Mm-hmm. definitely. And I think it should be out. I think next week. Is that right, or
Oh
week
yeah,
after?
yep. Next, the 14th. I know
Mm,
it's like it's I think Christmas, or not for Christmas. Valentine's Day. So yeah, yeah. I think it's gonna be kind of interesting to see what comes out of this.
yeah. And like I said, hopefully it will do well for them. I know Rainbow Six Siege has been having like a kind of renaissance period. I know it has a shaky start, but it seems like
Uh-huh.
it's doing really well for them. I know they've already announced or they are doing a second year's worth of season pass. So the game
Have you played Siege
I
yet?
have not.
I've wanted to so bad, and it's been on sale a couple of times. I never got a chance to pick it up. So yeah, huh.
I'm just having nightmares of trying to learn Counter Strike, and that's stopping me from playing Rainbow
Oh,
Six Siege.
yeah.
Let me see. I think we have someone who may be interested in joining us for the call. I'm
Oh,
going to
cool.
try and add them. I've never done this before, so we'll see if anything breaks or if I can even do this. So,
Okay.
1 second. How does this work? It's always fun when you're trying to do something new live too.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Uh,
Well, that's how people know it's live. You know what I
eh,
mean? That's the best way to know it's live.
mm-hmm. All right, let's see if this works. All right, let's see what happens. Hmm? I have no idea if it's actually doing it. That's I've never like actually like dialed a number on Skype before.
Okay.
Do I have to hit something to like start the call? Is there a key for that?
I do not. Wait, it should just say if you have them on Skype, just say add to call.
Oh, he gave me a number, so I'm not sure that
Oh.
works.
I guess look them up on the search, type the number into the search, and then see if it brings up the person, and then try to add them to call, I guess.
Let's see if this happens. Okay. Oh no. It looks like I need. Oh, it's the Skype cred. So I guess the only way to do that to call someone is it costs money, which unfortunately I
Oh,
don't.
really?
Yeah. Nuts.
Ah, okay. Oh, that kind of sucks.
Yeah.
We'll have to figure that
We'll have to
out.
figure out an easier way of doing that. I was
Yeah.
trying to find something for those of you watching this, either live or recorded. For sorry about that, Crimson. Um, well, we'll need to figure out a better way of doing something like that. Is there, for those of you watching this live or recorded, is there an easier way of like setting up for people to call in? Maybe like a different kind of service. Hmm. Yeah. We may need to. What we may need to do possibly is maybe set things up beforehand or something like that. Like if someone's interested, send me a message and we can go there. Discord. Have you ever used Discord, James?
I don't think I have actually.
I heard it. I think it's a chat software.
Okay.
Free voice. Oh, it's a voice and text chat for gamers. So yeah, it's probably some kind of a service like that. Yeah, we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. Yeah. Especially since I'm going to be doing more. Hopefully, as we get more Patreon support, one of the tiers is for someone to come on for one of our discussions as a guest. So,
Okay.
yeah, maybe I'll look
Hmm.
into that after this cast or after this live stream and see what we can do. Can run on
Mm-hmm.
browser. Huh. All right. Yeah, maybe I'll take a look at that then tonight and over the weekend and see if we can make use of that and see
Yeah.
because I mean we can still talk on Skype because OBS just will take it from my speakers, so it doesn't matter what the speaker source is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Well, that will be I guess my homework then for the weekend besides doing the post. But yeah, we'll
Uh-huh.
take a look at that. Let me see. So I guess getting back to some topics then. Needs Flash. I think I have Flash installed. I think. Well, again,
About to find out.
yeah. And I'll ask around some of my friends, see what they can offer anything as well. All right.
Hmm.
Getting back to it, I'm still waiting on. Actually, this reminds me. I'm waiting to hear from another developer about coming on for a live chat. I mentioned this last week. A friend of mine, Rahul Sagal from Roach Interactive, he
Hmm.
had a bit of the classic dilemma of family gets sick, and then he possibly could have gotten sick, so he couldn't make it
Oh,
last week. So hopefully, I'll be able to
yeah.
get him this week.
Hmm.
Um, it reminds me of when I talked with a friend of the site, Chris Gardner, who from Fallen One, we talk about like all the times that he gets sick, and then the family gets sick, and then the family gets sick, and then he gets sick. So it's just that never-ending cycle
Uh-huh.
of sickness. So let's see. Question in chat: Skid Marxism. Can I ask you a semi-racy question? Should we allow it, James?
A semi-racy?
Mm-hmm.
Ra ra racy?
Yeah.
Okay. Racy as in like
Is it going to get us in
as in
trouble? I think
race, or is racy as in like
controversial.
controversial? Like, go
El
for it. Go
Gordo
for it. Why
saying
not?
dun dun
Why
dun
not?
dun.
Duh,
Oh,
duh, duh. Yeah, let's go for it.
yeah, sure.
We do not stray away from the truth here at Game Wisdom.
Mm-hmm. Or this will be something bad and will get us banned from Twitch. Either way, right?
Well, oh yeah, banned from Twitch. Yeah, I hope not.
We'll have a huge fight and all kinds of craziness will happen.
Uh,
Well, waiting for that question to pop in. I guess for you, James. So, what do you think we're going for on? Are you going to pick it up after release,
oh
or are you?
yes.
Okay.
Definitely. I'm a huge fan of Warrior
Mm-hmm.
stuff and
Yeah.
that kind of. I would have picked it up even if I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
a big fan of that kind of thing. And like
Yeah.
it's a really even from the beta you can tell it's a well designed game.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I definitely gonna
Yeah.
definitely check it out.
Yeah. Definitely interested to see how Ubisoft is faring.
Mm-hmm.
Ah. So that is the question. Yeah, that may be a little too racy for our little discussion, I'm afraid, Skid. Are you seeing it in chat, James?
Oh, huh.
Yeah. I think that
Yeah,
may
I
be a
don't think that
little
has
bit.
anything to do with gaming.
Yeah. Sorry about that, Skid. We try to keep things PG-13 or at least TV-14 here. Yeah. Sorry about that. All right. Moving on then. Well, I guess we're getting recognizable. Where we got some very interesting questions coming, and this reminds me of when I got famous from on YouTube that more people are flagging my content for copyright. So
Oh
we're
yeah,
getting
yeah,
noticed.
I remember that. That was funny.
Yeah. All right. So getting back to things. So with For Honor, like I was about to say with Ubisoft, I know I'm also trying Might and Magic Showdown.
Oh, how was that?
Uh,
Is
I'm
that in beta or is that?
It is beta early access right now.
Oh, okay, okay. That looked really fun. Like I really hope they bring that to consoles.
It's okay. It feels a little too simplistic. Like, did you watch any footage of it?
Ah, yes, yes, I have. Yeah.
Like the painting UI is fascinating. We were talking about this on the stream, and
Mm-hmm.
basically, like someone should just take that and add it to like Warhammer, like El Gordo's saying, or like any of the miniature markets, and just like imagine that kind of UI. Paint your figurines and then like, get them mailed to you, or get something customly made.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, saying $500 a piece DLC. There'll probably be people willing to spend that. If you can get like a custom figurine with all of
uh,
that functionality.
yeah, but the people that are willing to spend that have already spent like how
Mm,
much money on those things already. Like
yeah.
that's what they do. They are the Warhammer people, and they
Hmm.
spend money on Warhammer.
And it reminds me of when Spore was originally announced back in the days before
Ah, yeah,
things
yeah, I remember.
came tumbling down for that. And they
Uh-huh.
were promising, they said that one thing they were wanting to do was any of the creatures you create with the UI, like they were going to have the option to get like that 3D print and you get like a figurine mailed to you of your custom creature.
Uh-huh.
And that would have been awesome, but unfortunately that game just did not take. And that would honestly be a really good dissecting design, I think, now that I think about what happened with Spore. But I have to
Hmm.
go back and play that game at some point and spend more time with it. I know I spoke with Chris Hecker, who I have to uh, nail. I have to get him like nailed down at some point because he's so busy with Spy Party, and that game's been around forever. Yeah.
Hmm.
And Elgar was saying about they better tune like a painting tool. Yeah, Paint 3, that would be amazing with that.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I think as a console player, I really think that I'd love to see that game on console. Do I think it'll ever get to console? And the sad thing is, I think mechanically, yeah, I think it would work. But because of the whole painting system, I don't know if that would get there. And they've put those kind of games in. They've put those kind of games on console before, but I don't know. You just don't have a lot of control. There's already a lot of issues with controls on the controller of how to maneuver maneuvering cursors with
Hmm.
the controller, which I think I think it's still going to run into a lot of that same problem.
Definitely. It feels very. The problem I think with the games that it just feels very simplistic. Like, I'm not sure, and this is the same thing that I was saying about with For Honor, but like with For Honor, there is depth there. The one-to-one gameplay, that fighting
Oh
elements
yeah,
to it. I
yeah.
mean, that stuff can carry a game. I mean, once you get that core foundation down, you can grow that
Hmm.
out any number of ways. And I'm sure,
Very much so.
again, I'm sure they have a whole design document of potential characters and things they would like to add if the game does well. With
Hmm.
Might and Magic Showdown, I'm not seeing that because a
Really?
lot of the game, like, you only control one character, and the other ones you set up like the macro command. So like
Oh really?
it's
Oh.
like you set up like the aura saying, if my health is above 50 and the opponent is this distance away, I will cast this.
Oh
Or
really?
if my hero is debuffed, I will go here and use this skill. And it feels like a lot of the game is done outside of playing the game. Like, you control your
Hmm.
hero, but it's not really like all that involved.
Hmm. It almost seems like they wanted a video, a mass produced video way to customize Warhammer 40K or the Might and Magic characters, but kind of tagged on the gameplay afterwards. You know what I mean? Like, I heard the actual customization and spray painting and stuff is really in depth.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, that seems to be the part they spent the bulk of the time. And what people are complaining about is that this has like nothing to do with the original Might and Magic at all. Like, it features, like, guess some of the characters, but like, again, like, this was never Might and Magic. Like the old school, either I think they did some 4X or some turn-based strategy games. But the main part about Might and Magic was, of course, oh, I'm sorry, Heroes of Might and Magic was the strategy game. I'm pretty sure I have a few of those on GOG.
Hmm.
And Might and Magic was the dungeon crawler CRPG. And
Okay.
actually, that actually gives me a really good segue that I almost forgot about. There's another game that I actually got into the beta for, Gwent,
Uh-huh.
which is the Witcher 3's
Oh,
card
wow.
game.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've heard of it. Yeah.
So I installed the GOG has their own DRM and called GOG Galaxy, which is currently in beta. It's supposed to be like their take on Steam,
Okay.
and I'm curious to see like how that's going to do.
Uh-huh.
And so, in order to play Gwent, I needed to get that. So I'm going to install Gwent over the weekend, probably make a video of that,
Hmm.
and then I can say my voice just went out. Then I can say that I've tried just about every CCG that's out there. I did Duelists, Elder Scrolls, Shadowverse, Hearthstone.
Oh, okay.
Um, there's probably one more in there that I'm forgetting. Oh, Farah, something like that. And yes, I did look up about Heroes of Might and Magic, and apparently I did buy it. I don't remember how I bought it, but of course it's one of those things. I apparently
Uh,
own Heroes of Might and Magic 2 and 3. I don't know
and you don't
why I own
remember.
4 or 5, but again, I only remember buying 2 or 3. So,
Hmm. Hmm.
I am using, I believe this is a GameCon headset.
Okay.
That's a question from chat.
Yeah. So.
Hmm. Yeah, so Heroes of Might and Magic. Yeah, they must have been on sale at some point. That's why I bought them. And let's see, I know they just put on their. Ooh, they put on 3 of the classic Impression city builders: Caesar 1, 2, and Emperor. Emperor's an
Hmm.
interesting one. I don't know, James. Do you have any experience with the Impression city builders?
No, no, actually, I have not.
Uh, that's definitely more of a history lesson, and especially
Okay.
about for those of you who are newer to PC gaming, Impressions, or I'm sorry, for console gamers as well. Impressions was a company developed. It was, I think, run by Chris Beatrice back in the '90s, and they basically created their own style of city builders using a. Let me see if I get this right. Let's see, push in, push out. Oh my goodness, I can't believe I forget. I had this whole conversation with Chris Beatrice. Like he was one of like the first people I talked to on for Game Wisdom when it first opened up. Let me see if I
Hmm.
can get the name of it. He created a system called a walker system to abstract how city services would work in the cities. So, like, you put
Uh-huh.
down a firehouse and you see like a little guy carrying like a water bucket around, and that
Hmm.
was to represent fire service getting throughout your city.
Oh, okay.
So, if you have like a marketplace, you would do that. Like you'll see like a little person with like a food cart walking around, and all the homes that person would hit would basically represent that house getting food.
Okay. So it sounds very minimalist.
Yeah, I mean this was like '90s, very early there. And
Hmm.
let me see, I am actually as a bit of a fun. Here it is, a push and pull system. So the push system is that the service radiates out from the building. So like I just described, and
Yeah.
then later when they did Children of the Nile, which was an incredibly underrated game, um, he did a pull system. So in this case, the services pull people to those buildings. So you didn't need to have roads locked in. And let me see. Oh, a few questions in chat from Skid again. Opinion of Age of Empires. I liked it. I've played. I actually played a little bit of Age of Empires 2 HD on the stream 2 weeks ago. I want to say. I did like Age of Empires 3. I know it may be somewhat polarizing, but I did enjoy the home city concept. That kind of CCG play. And let me see. Another one, ever play Mech Warrior? I have not. But I have been looking at that Battletech game from. Uh, oh, goodness. Every time I remember a game, I forget something else game related.
Who's it? Yeah.
It's done by Harebrained Schemes. There we go. The encyclopedia, the wires finally connected. They're doing the Kickstarter for BattleTag, or they did, and now they're working on the game. Did you ever
Mhm.
play any of the MechWarrior games, James? I don't know if they ever came to consoles.
No, I there was a Mech Warrior Tactics I know that I was looking at for a while, and I don't know whatever happened to it. It was probably and I've well wait I think I might have played a Mech Warrior. I don't know if it ever came to did they ever make a Mech Warrior for the Game Boy, like one of the old Nintendo systems?
Hmm.
Because I think I might have played one on an old Nintendo system, and I cannot remember. But
Uh,
I've heard I've only really I've heard of Mech Warrior and what was the other one that you mentioned, Josh?
Age of Empires?
No, no, the one but you said we were talking about Mech Warrior, and you said something you played
BattleTech?
BattleTech. I've actually I think both of those are, or at least I think BattleTech was an anime, wasn't it?
You may be thinking of Robotech.
Robotech. That's a
Hmm.
wow, derp. Yep, Robotech.
Yeah, it looks like just a quick Wikipedia. I think they did release one for the Super Nintendo. It looks like.
Yeah, yeah. I think okay, Super Nintendo. That sounds familiar.
Yeah.
I might have played one for the Super Nintendo, but keep in mind, back when I was playing the Super Nintendo, I didn't know anything about gaming.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Uh, what was interesting, I was talking about this last week. Like, I would love, like, as a complete tangent, I remember playing, like, MechWarrior, like, there was, like, a VR simulator at, like, a local place around here. And so it had,
Uh,
like, the cheesy FMV acting. And I was talking
mhm.
about this last week. I would love if they ever bring those old school FMV games to GOG.
Oh,
Stuff
okay.
like Sewer Shark, Crypt
Uh,
Killer, um, Night Trap, of course. Like we could have like a
uh,
total like bad game night, like a bad movie night with
uh,
that. Have you ever seen those
uh,
games, James?
I've seen videos of some of those
Hmm.
games. Yeah, like oh
I
man.
own two of them. I have them for the 3DO somewhere here. Yeah, Sewer Shark. That's one of those games that you have to experience it at least once in your life, and then you'll hate the person who introduced it to you forever. Let's see. There was this. Yeah, there was an Xbox mech game. You may be thinking of Steel Battalion, El Gordo. That was the. Oh, but I know there was another one. Chrome Hounds. I think that was another one. I know a recent guest was on there. Yeah, that's the one. Gordo, you're thinking of Steel Battalion. It's like a $200 controller. That looked awesome, but yeah, there's no way I was affording that one. Did you ever see that game, James?
Oh yeah, yeah. I've seen it. I've seen it. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, no, that the pricing on that was a little ridiculous. I mean, I'm all for realism, but I don't no, I don't need a $200 controller.
Yeah, I had enough time convincing my family that we needed the rock band stuff. I'm not. I don't think I would win that fight with that.
Uh,
So getting back to the city builders, um, yeah. So the he created or his studio created that genre. So they made all the. I'm just reading the chat at the same time I'm trying to talk. So they made this whole collection of games. They're all based on like different historical periods. So you have Caesar taking place during Rome, Pharaoh, of course, Egypt, Zeus for Greek, and then Emperor for I think Ming Dynasty, China.
mhm.
And I really enjoyed them. They were more puzzle like than they were like the traditional SimCity games. And then he went on to do Tilted Mill, which was a company that founded that they did Children of the Nile, which that game was it was advanced for its time. Like no one else was doing a city builder along those lines, but the company just could not get one big hit. They also worked on SimCity Societies, but unfortunately, after they announced the game Medieval Mayor, I think they kind of went under. And actually, XP, if you really want to count QuickTime events, we could say, I'm not sure, would Dragon's Lair be considered FMV? No, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think that's what I think that's technically I think it is like as far as like I think that's the what they use isn't what they used to
It was
make it.
all. It was basically you're watching a video, but it's like you're watching like an
Hmm.
animated cartoon.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess that is accurate. And Dragon's Lair definitely was the first game to do that. And oh goodness, I just lost my train of thought. Oh, now I remember. Speaking about FMV games, here's another one for you folks. See if anyone remembers this game. Bad Mojo. I don't. I don't think it ever came to the console, so I don't know if you ever heard of that one, James.
Mm-mm. Yeah, I haven't.
It's an adventure game where you play a guy who gets turned into a cockroach, and you have to figure out how to get back to being a human. And this whole like dingy hotel is basically the world that you explore.
Uh-huh.
It
Huh.
very interesting. Again, it was during the heyday of the FMV era. Yeah, there is a Redux version. I think I actually own that. I think I have the cons. Did I ever get the Steam version? I know I have the console, or I'm sorry, the physical version of that at some point, or I have that here. I actually have the physical versions of Dragon's Lair and Dragon's Lair 2. There was a time
Hmm.
where I was hooked on those FMV games, and then like, I tried going back to them a few years ago. I was like, what the hell was wrong with me? Why am I still playing these? And if you guys, and here's another one for you for the old retro Brain Dead 13. That was one of the last of those style of FMV games, or the QTE based ones. And I don't know if anyone here has actually ever played that one other than me.
Nah, no, I haven't.
Hmm. Let's see. Seashells and Snails was talking about World of Warcraft. They're 6 months clean from that addiction. I guess, 13 years clean at this point, so I'm doing
Yeah,
well.
I'm a couple of years clean myself.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, Seashells heard of Brain Dead 13. Well, good on you then for joining. I thought I could stump everyone with that one. I have a whole repository of retro and obscure games floating around in my head. So it's always fun to try and challenge people, see if they've actually heard of these games as well. And that reminds me, another good dissecting design would probably be Children of the Nile, just again because it was such a unique city builder. But the city building has definitely fallen somewhat on hard times. I think the last one to really do well was Cities Skylines, and
Mm-hmm.
I think they are doing reasonably well. They basically came out after the failure of I'm sorry, not of XCOM, of SimCity, and they kind of were like, "Hey, you hated SimCity? Try our game," and it did
Ah,
wonders for them.
yeah.
Now, as a bit of sad news, I you probably know that I've been talking about Clockwork Empires as a game that I was looking
Yeah,
forward to. It
yeah.
turns out that I think it's going to end up on the fail column of early access. It's been
Really?
abandoned, and it's from what they're saying on the forums. I think the company may have folded because of the game.
You had those guys on here though, didn't you?
I've been wanting to get them on, but we were trying to
Uh,
wait until after the game was released,
okay.
and it's looking like no one is working on the game anymore. And it
Hmm.
kind of that really sucks. I hate when a studio goes out, especially when it's a game that has promise like that. But they were last working on patch 1.1, which is supposed to be fixing all the bugs and issues with patch 1.0 and improving on things from there. And then it just disappeared basically.
Hmm.
So unfortunately, I was really hoping that game was going to do well, and it doesn't look like we're going to be getting the good version of that game. Maybe if modders will get a
Hmm.
hold of it, maybe we'll see like a resurrection at some point, but who knows?
Hmm.
It reminds me, I was thinking about this the other night. I've been having really bad luck with Dwarf Fortress style games. I was really looking forward to Space Base DF9, which was Double
Hmm.
Fine's Dwarf Fortress in space. That collapsed. Then I was looking at Clockwork Empires. That's gone. So now I'm kind of like, I'm sort of worried about Oxygen not included and Stonehearth, just because of the bad luck I've been having.
Josh, stop looking at other people. Stop looking at games, Josh.
Yeah, I'm giving it the death look right now.
Uh,
But really, I really hope Auction Not Included works, and Stonehearth I think is doing well. From what I'm seeing, it looks like they really have a good, solid game plan to that one.
hmm.
Let me see. And I've been checking our time. We are over an hour, and again, it feels like we just started chatting.
Yeah.
Um, Let me see. There's any other topics? I guess. Yeah, bad luck, Josh. Meme. That's good. Thank you,
Mm-hmm.
Ricardo.
Oh, Gordo.
Oh, yeah. Let me see. There's anything else coming? Growing? Oh, I was looking at that game, Folk Tales. So maybe that will be the next one to collapse. Well, I hope
Hmm.
no one on that team is watching this. I'm sorry if I just gave you guys the whammy there, or the bad mojo. There you go. Um,
I know. Wasn't there a Cthulhu game that I remember? I saw a trailer for a Cthulhu-based game
hmm.
that was coming out soon. Was that the one that Sandy was working on? Uh,
No, he did Cthulhu Wars, which I think is already out. I know it's been very popular.
uh,
I know
there's
they were
like a
remaking Call Cthulhu. Josh
is
face.
that
Oh, there's no, it's a Josh face. Those that into a meme. That's good. Yeah, they. Let me see. I know they were planning on remaking. Wow, I can't talk. Call Cthulhu, which was based on which is the game Dark Corners of the Earth,
okay. Hmm.
which I don't know what they're doing with that. Yeah, Mojo was definitely good. It came out again during the mid '90s, so this was already after FMV was sort of established. Oh, El Gore is saying Call Cthulhu by the end of the year. Yeah. Um, Let me see. Yeah, what was I about to say? Oh yeah, and speaking about the FMV games, I mentioned the game in Mercenary from last week, and
Mm.
that's another one I don't think a lot of people play. It was I think exclusive to the 3DO, and I need to get in touch with GOG and tell them to put all these games on. Even they didn't come out for the PC, just figure out how to get 3DO games on there. Oh, that reminds me, Shockwave. I know that came out for PlayStation 1. That was another big FMV series at the time. And for those of you watching this, did any one of you play Shockwave back in the day? Have you ever even heard of that one, James?
Mm-mm. Unfortunately, I have not.
You're basically a fighter pilot and you're trying to save Earth from an alien invasion. And it's
Hmm.
all like first person, completely unrealistic, of course, but it was crazy in terms of its difficulty spike. I remember there was one level where they set up this end of level trap that the second you fly over it, you just take massive damage. I could never figure out how to get around it. And it just came down to just like dumb luck of just like flying at like the right angle and having the right health.
Oh,
And then
really?
and then they did a Shockwave 2, which was like it basically went sci-fi series on us. Like it took like
Hmm.
it went like Stargate Atlantis on the series. Like, it went to like another galaxy, complete different cast, and even more bad FMV acting before and after each mission. But yet it never followed through with that. And I know Killing Time was another good one, or an interesting one. It came out during that weird era when people were trying to do first person shooters on the consoles without an analog stick. And for
Mm-hmm.
those of you younger or who never got to experience that, um, you missed a whole lot of stuff there with that. Try doing strafing without an analog stick, or aiming up
Mm.
and down.
Or
Although
aiming up, I was say aiming on the y x and y axes.
but of course, for those of you who played System Shock or even the older Doom, well, Doom didn't let you aim up and down. It was just simply it automatically aimed for you, so that's fine.
Yeah, yeah. Well, technically, everything was in front of you. Everything was on the same plane. Do you
Yeah.
remember? Just
Mhm.
for the way the way it was designed,
Mhm.
kind of put it didn't allow for that. So.
Mhm. Yeah, but we could probably sit here and reminisce on classic games for a few more hours there.
Hmm.
Oh yeah, old Doom keyboard only, and yeah, cramping up your fingers. Back then, we didn't think about using WSAD for movement. It was all arrow keys. Yeah, like your little like claw there trying to hit all those buttons.
Pep Pepperidge Farm remembers.
Let me see. What is our time yet? We'll probably wrap things up in the next few minutes, but there is one topic that I definitely want to talk about. I want to get your thoughts on this one as well, James. As someone who's now just starting to get into PC gaming, especially checking out the indie scene, and
Mm.
this is, of course, the big controversial topic today of Steam Direct. And this was just literally announced earlier today that Valve is going to be taking down Steam Greenlight, which was the ability for developers to, for $100 fee, they can post their games on the program, and then the community will vote for what games they want to see Valve add to the Steam marketplace,
Yeah.
and that is going away in place of Steam Direct. And if you
Hmm.
miss the critical thought or the news, what it is essentially is developers have to basically sign up with Valve. They give tax information, basically all like important tax details, and then they pay a fee, which at this point it's either going they're shooting for either minimum of $100 to a max of $5,000,
Oh,
and this is
wow.
a fee that's paid per game and
Hmm.
that you want to put out. So if you release 3 games and the fee is $1,000, then you're paying $3,000 to Steam, and they're
Hmm.
saying the fee will be recuperable, and they're not. We haven't heard how yet. I was thinking it's going to
Hmm.
be something like they basically have a you don't get the first $3,000 or whatever the fee of your game is, and then once you get that money, they give it to you. So they're basically holding that money as like a retainer almost.
Hmm.
And so, and then when you do that, when you pay the fee, you sign up, you give all the information, you're on Steam. There is no
Hmm.
community voting. There is no backdoor deal. I know a guy who knows a guy who knows a guy. You get the money, or they get the money. You get the information. You're on Steam, and it's
Hmm.
got a lot of developers very nervous about the fee, as El Gordo was mentioning. Like that, I think is going to be a big point because for a lot of people, like if you're barely making do, $100 can seem like $100,000.
Yeah,
Or
very much so.
and what if they decided to make it $5,000? I mean, for a lot of people, especially smaller developers, that could be a good portion of the game's budget right there.
Yeah.
And as the comments from chat are saying, it definitely feels like it's their attempt at killing shovelware. As
Mm.
everyone knows, one of the big things that has been a problem with Steam and Early Access and Greenlight has been the massive amount of shovelware based games that get on there. And XP mentioned, of course, asset flip games. So games that just steal other games' assets and try and copy and paste it and do something
Hmm.
along those lines. I know there's like a ton of Minecraft clones like that. Um, I'm sure you name it, there's probably a clone of some famous game. And as comments from chat are saying, there's Ichigo Game Joel. Ichigo has been gaining some popularity. I haven't used it too much,
Hmm.
and I have not used Game Jolt as well, so I don't know too much about that. But it is a different place than it was like 4 or 5 years ago. Obviously, Steam is no longer the main thing. It's still the most popular option, but you do have GOG, Humble Bundle, Ichigo, Game Jolt, etc. But
Hmm.
it is going to be very interesting to see how this is going to work. Again, with Valve, they are known to change their position quite frequently on some of these topics. We
Hmm.
mentioned Steam Workshop when they were going to have paid mods, and within like literally 3 days, they canceled the whole program. So
Mm.
who knows what this means? And as I said in my critical thought, this is definitely Valve doing more with automation. Like it seems like they really don't want a hands-on with with a lot of the stuff. Like they didn't like the part
Hmm.
of vetting games. So, and I know a lot of people would like it if it was like the human element. Like you could talk to someone and they get like a personal response saying, "Oh, your game's doing this and this and this." Well, then we'll only charge you this amount of fee. It sounds like it's very much going to be like an automated thing saying, "Do you want to sign up for Steam Direct? Click here." Yes. Okay, please give us X amount of dollars. Enter your PayPal information. Okay, you are now on Steam. That kind of thing.
Hmm.
Yeah, and it's always been that kind of trouble, and it's one of the things that's made really hard in terms of reviewing games. That it's sometimes hard to separate again the signal from the noise in terms of what games. I mean, I've gotten emails from developers asking me to look at their games, and I look at it, and it looks again like something that was done over like a weekend kind of thing. Like when
Yeah.
you've played enough games, you can tell when someone is going for quality. And thankfully, I think we've, especially with the developers we've spoken to, we've been talking to the guys who had that craftsmanship desire with their games.
Hmm. Oh,
And
definitely.
but there are those who have done things that are less than reputable. There was, of course, that whole thing with Digital Homicide and how they kind of fought Jim Sterling and lost.
Hmm.
And again, the asset flip games. And I'm sure if I go on Steam Early Access or Greenlight right now, there's probably a ton of games. And someone mentioned this earlier in the chat, but it also doesn't. They haven't announced what this will mean for early access. Because again, with a game in early access, you can't really guarantee those sales. Like, if
Hmm.
I want to put an early access game on Steam, are they going to take that money that is pretty much going to be used for developing the game, which is hence why we need early access in some cases, to pay for it? Or will they wait until the game goes 1.0? But then you
Hmm.
run the risk of what happens if the game goes under. What if they get 12 months in and say we're done, we can't do it anymore?
Oh, you can't do it. Yeah. Huh.
Eh. And again, like what XP is saying, should be at least $200 per game. Someone was one of the comments on the YouTube, the critical thought was mentioning that it should be maybe on a case by case basis. Like if I'm releasing a $40 massive game, and I'm expecting
Hmm.
this to be a big hit, then that could be like a $2,000-3,000 fee. Well, if I'm releasing
Yeah.
like a $5, puzzle game, something that maybe only has like 4 or 5 hours of content, then maybe it should only be $100.
Yeah.
And as I'll
When
go,
when you're talking about the free when you're talking about the market, the gaming market there, you gotta it's gonna weed itself, but while it's doing that, you're gonna have saturation. You know what I mean? It's just kind of natural, and I think right now what we're seeing is kind of an oversaturation. You
mm-hmm,
know what I mean?
yeah. Let me see here. Huh. I just got a response from my friend Rahul. Rahul, I just mispronounced that. I think we are going to possibly have a live chat tomorrow here on the Twitch. We have to. I'll see if I can settle the time, but let me see. I think he wanted like noon. I think I'll see if I can push that a little bit later. Well, would you be
Mhm.
available tomorrow, James, for a live chat here again?
I'll have to check my schedule and get back to you on that. Yeah,
All right.
I should be good.
Mm-hmm. Let me see if I can get a time. One of the challenges, of course, is time zones. I think he's like 6, 7 hours ahead of us here.
Okay.
So it's always fun when you're trying to plan these things around.
Hmm.
But we'll see. I'll probably make a Twitch announcement. Of course, you guys will get the updates on Twitch if you're following me about tomorrow. And worst comes to worst, if you miss it, it will most likely go up as a recording later on. Let me see. Yeah. XP fee per megabyte. Yeah, and that's interesting too about like as one of the comments on Gama Sutra is about for the companies who are doing these asset flips or less unscrupulous, like they probably have money saved up to get around any fee that Valve wants to put on it. But
Hmm.
it also raises a question of how many times can someone do that? Like, how many times can you just throw out $4,000 or $5,000? Now, obviously, if you're a company like Activision, EA, when you have millions and millions, that's a drop in the bucket. But
Hmm.
again, there's still so much that is unknown at this moment.
Yeah,
So
very much so.
I guess for you, James, as someone who's more on the console side and just getting into things now, what do you think about this idea for Steam Direct?
I think it could lead to something good, but I don't know. I kind of feel like it's also putting a little bit of uh, a weary meter on a lot of these free agents. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like I don't know. It's Steam. They're gonna do what they're gonna, you know what I mean? Or it's Valve. They're gonna do what they're gonna do regardless. But I don't know. I kind of like having that open market. I know they're trying to weed out the people that are taking advantage of that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think we're just gonna have to keep an eye out and see what kind of becomes of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but again, we still have months to look at this and examine because I'm sure Valve
Yeah,
is
yeah,
going to wait. Yeah, and as Elgoro says, Valve looks for what's good for Valve, and
yeah.
that's definitely been their MO in the past. Let's see, new indies. Yeah, it's kind of interesting about that. There's been that discussion about new indies shouldn't be on Steam or consoles, but Steam has become the juggernaut. So it
Yeah.
has, for a lot of developers, been that golden ticket. There are people who will not
Hmm.
look at your game if it's not on
If
Steam.
it's not on Steam, yeah, yeah,
Now, of course, as we talked about earlier, there are more options today than there were 5, 6 years ago. Again, you have Humble Bundle, GOG, etc. So that does help things. But it's I think the convenience factor has become such a major part of things that it's hard to get someone to go somewhere else. And then you run into
hmm,
stuff like the annoyances of you play with Steam at the same time, and you play just seems to get annoying for me. It seems to slow my system down every time I run it.
hmm.
But again, of course, you're kind of forced to use it. And again, we could easily segue this off into a discussion of that kind of convenience factor and what it means for gamers,
Yeah.
especially in today's age with online access. I mean, like with PSN, I can sign on to PSN from here, buy a game, and then start the download on my PlayStation 4 and have that done. Essentially, it's
Yeah. Yep.
I mean that kind of stuff is crazy. And again, we can even go into the Switch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and yeah, but exactly, Ocordo. That people it is a very much about that convenience when it comes to these multiple platforms.
Yeah.
And I mean, like hardcore gamers like myself. I mean, like I said, I have a GOG Humble Bundle, Steam. I'm going to apparently have. I think I have a Bethesda Net account at this point, PSN. I think I have an Xbox Live account from when I had my Xbox 360. I haven't.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have an Xbox 360 anymore, but I still have that account.
Still the account there.
And
Yeah.
I don't even remember the password either, so that's great. That will add up to a whole lot of fun with trying to get
Uh-huh.
password recovery, especially like
Send it
place
to your email, and then the email. Wait for the confirmation code. Yeah.
and PSN won't let me change my handle because or change my email address because my email address is too close to what my username is. I can't
Oh
change my
wow.
username because that's locked
Uh.
to the account.
Uh.
Oh, it's the ever what is
Never
that like
ending.
the snake eating
Uh.
itself kind of thing right
Yep.
there?
Orobos.
Or Sisyphus with pushing the boulder up the hill. It just gets.
And never getting it up there.
Hmm. Yeah, I've heard that too, Al Gore. That the Switch definitely seems like it's more built for third parties, and I guess going back to what XP was talking about with indies on the consoles, that again is something that we should definitely dedicate more to at some point. Especially again, with you, James, as someone who has been on the console for the longest time, you're kind of getting this exposure for the first time with the independent scene.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I'm curious about like if you ever have a chance to play some like the more obscure games, although I don't know if they'll ever come to the console. Stuff like
Mm-hmm.
Her Story, Dear Esther.
Oh, actually, yeah, that they have. I have
Uh,
played those actually.
huh.
Her Story. I've played Dear Esther, and
Hmm.
I've played Her Story actually. Well, actually, my
Swear.
girlfriend actually played it on the PlayStation, and thoroughly enjoyed it.
Hmm.
So,
And did you like Her Story?
yeah, well, it was an experience. It was
Hmm.
definitely something different. You don't see that kind of style of stuff every day. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
It was. I actually got a chance to play that over at Ken, our mutual friend Ken's.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, does bring up a good point. It's all the service about Valve and Steam Direct is going to, from what they're saying, is going to be focused on new indie developers and new companies. So if you're already established on Steam, then the Steam Direct will not apply to you. But then that does raise another question. At what point do you become established enough that you can basically not have to pay that fee? Like if
Hmm.
you release a game and it does Minecraft numbers, are they going to still ask you for a fee for your second game?
Mm. Yeah.
Um, Oh, and that actually reminds me. I'm not sure why this just popped in my head, but they just announced that the FTL developers are working on a brand new game.
Hmm.
It's going to be, I think, a tactical strategy game.
Ooh.
Oh God, I can't wait to see how hard that game's going to be after playing
Uh,
FTL.
FDL. Yeah.
Oh, that's going to be
Hmm.
fun. I was trying to get those guys on for a podcast, but they were always too busy for it.
Hmm.
All right, let me see if there's any other news going on. I'm just trying to read through the comments quickly. Yeah. Like again, like I guess to wrap up talking about Dreg, it's definitely going. This is Steam's or Valve's attempt at putting up a defense against shovelware and abandonware. And
Hmm.
I'm sure there are a lot of smaller indie developers who are either scared or very annoyed about that. And I've been saying this for a while now that I do feel that the bottom may be dropping out of the independent market just because of how so many
Yeah.
developers have been raising the bar. That it's becoming
Hmm.
harder and harder to stand out like that.
Yeah. Which is kind of sad. I mean,
Hmm.
like I said, well, it's sad, but I also think kind of necessary too.
Yeah.
It's eventually, like I keep saying, it's going to weed itself out, and
Hmm.
you're either going to make something that people are going to like and it's going to go somewhere, or you're not. And I mean, and by people liking, that could have numerous meanings too. You might find a little niche community that's willing to support your, tiny little investment. You might not. You might just kind of made a bad game,
Mm-hmm.
popped it on Steam, and don't really have much else to show for it.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like I'm being
Yeah,
sounds being mean, but that's the nature of business.
I know.
And as much as video games are art and passion and love, they are also a business.
I've said that enough times that it can become its own drinking game, at least here.
Hmm.
And as El Gore says, the indies that matter, sadly, are the ones that succeeded, and that's true. And we've been saying that for a while now um, that it's becoming that if you don't have that success, it becomes very hard to sustain yourself as a company. And
Yeah.
for all the independent developers out there and all those amazing one-off games, there are very few indie developers who survive like multiple years. I'm talking,
Yeah.
8 or 9 years plus as an indie
Hmm.
developer. Now, of course, there are some notable exceptions, like Spireweb Software. They've been doing it now for 23 years, I think, as being independent. So has
Hmm.
Introversion and Crow Team, but there are more nays than there are yays in terms of that.
Yeah.
And Seashells and Snail says, hope that doesn't mean great awful games like Goat Simulator and How Full Boyfriend won't get made. And that's true. There are games that fall into that it's so bad that it's good category.
Yeah, but even Goat Simulator has at least seen not just a little bit of sales, but also some notoriety for how bad it is. You know what I mean? For its its gameplay, and just there's still going to be stupid fun games. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
don't think that's and I don't think that's what Valve was trying to do when they're doing that too.
Hmm.
It's just more, it's getting I mean, that's a lot of information that they have just
Yeah.
got to weed through, and this is just
Yeah.
the easiest way for them to
Hmm.
do it.
Yeah, and like speaking about this, the indies that succeed, this also raises the question of, are the develop like is this really going to impact those guys, the people like the developer behind Stardew Valley or Scott Cawthon of Five Nights at Freddy's? Like,
Hmm.
are they going to really feel this fee? Well, technically they're not because they're already on the platform. But like, if a new developer comes on and they have a success along those lines, are they really
Hmm.
going to care? Like, they could just throw out any game they want at that point. They'll have the backings, but for your first time developers or your starting out people, depending upon what that fee is, it could hurt really bad to get on the Steam. But
Very true.
I think, as you said, James, like it is the market feeling itself out. Like one of the big criticisms of Steam has been the drop in quality because there's just
Hmm.
so many games on there that again it's just hard to uh, get that working. It's hard to pick out what games are going to succeed and then compare the ones that are just your bargain bin ones. I've heard a few people say that they refuse to look at games that pop up on their recommendations because they think it's just shovelware. Now, of course,
Hmm.
I'm sure that's not the general opinion of that.
Hmm.
And as O'Gore says, the indie devs that succeed have names now, and that's true.
Hmm.
They have clout. Like I just said with Scott Cawthon. Cawthorn, I'm sure I just mispronounced his name. Like when he announces his next game, even if it's not Five Nights at Freddy's base,
Hmm.
every game site is going
Yeah,
to post
yeah.
that press
It
release.
takes one hit to get your name out there
Hmm.
and to people start paying attention to what you can do as a developer. Yes,
Hmm.
very true.
Yeah, and XP mentioned Steam needs to slow down new releases. That's kind of interesting because right now
Hmm.
Steam releases are controlled by the indie developers. Now, of course,
Hmm.
they have to match, what's going on. Like when I spoke with who did we speak to? I think it was either Sandy or Jonas Turner. We spoke to,
Hmm.
which that podcast will hopefully be going up this weekend. He mentioned that he was originally going to release the game in March, but then he realized that Mass Effect was coming out then. So you
Hmm.
do have to plan things out. But it would be interesting if Valve implemented like a policy saying X amount of games can be released daily, or like it could be like a lottery system or something along those lines, saying 30 games can be released on this date. If you don't get in, then the next date will be this one. And then if you
Yeah.
miss that one, then the next day will be that one. But
Mm.
then you kind of take the control away from the developers, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people would not like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as Seashell says, that it's becoming hard to find out good information about games because demos have been replaced by Let's Plays. And
Mm-hmm.
very few games do demos these days. And
Mm-hmm.
then, of course, you have early access. Now, I did like Steam's refund policy, although I do think it can be a little too broad, especially when we're talking about, you know, 60, 80 hour games. It's kind of hard to see in 2 hours if you're going to like that game.
Very true.
All right, but I think we're going to wrap things up. We are actually almost approaching 2 hours of talking at this point. Well,
Mm-hmm.
an hour and a half. So, um, I guess for you, James, do you have any final thoughts you want to get to before we say goodnight?
Just I again, I want to assure, but I don't think Valve is trying to do any real harm to the industry as
Mm-hmm.
far as I think it's just more. I think it's just that they're trying to um clean up their system a little bit, and that's okay. That the game industry
Mm-hmm.
will continue down that same no, it's still, you're still gonna have those people that still make dumb fun little games, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that I don't I, I really have hope that that the industry is still gonna have those kind of things out there for it to keep itself going.
Mm-hmm. And again, as we were saying, it's still very early to say what's going on. Because again, Valve can
Hmm.
certainly change their mind multiple times. Yeah, and I agree with you, Gore, about the Steam refund. Yeah, I think that was a very smart move by them. And I'm curious if other platforms will adopt that kind of a similar refund policy like that.
Mm.
Does PSN doesn't have a refund policy right on their games?
And that I don't know. I don't think so. I think it's more just um I think it's more to if there is a refund policy, it's probably through their customer service and not
Yeah,
their not on the
yeah.
site.
I know a lot of people were complaining about the refund policy when it was first announced, and I think that has turned out better than what people were thinking of. And
Hmm.
Melgore was mentioning Sony did refunds for No Man's Skies. I know Steam opened up they basically opened up the floodgates for refunds on that. I think they said
Hmm.
if you had didn't matter what time you had in that game, you could refund it. It's basically a
Mm.
no questions asked period.
Hmm.
I guess that also, again, we could easily talk about No Man's Sky, but we'll be here for another hour and a half at that point.
Hmm.
Let me see here. I'm actually checking the time difference. I think Rahul is looks like 5 hours ahead. So, whew, we'll have to see about playing that time. So I will let you guys know on Twitter probably sometime tomorrow when we're going to do it, and we'll see when we get things going. Yeah, Steam was sued by an Australian government for no refunds. Yeah, I know that there's different laws in Europe regarding refunding of digital copies. Oh, that's good. Dissecting Design, No Man's Sky, Driving Josh Insane Edition. Yeah, so that'll be perfect there.
Oh, Gordo.
Yeah. All right. Let's wrap things up. I have to get ready because I have some Niho play. I've been basically saving all the plays for the Twitch stream, so it's giving me a lot of fire, but it means I don't play the game throughout the day. So I'm itching to
Hmm.
get back to it, and I need to get in touch with him first. With Rahul regarding time, see if we can settle on something. But thank you so much for everyone watching. I think we had a pretty lively cast and definitely a long one. It seems like we're getting longer with these as more people show up.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
All right, and be sure if you're enjoying these two, like and subscribe and all that good stuff. Check out our Patreon campaign for ways of supporting and getting some nice little rewards. Otherwise, there won't be a critical thought tomorrow, which would be Saturday. So I'll be back Sunday. I think I'm going to do the Western RPG one then. And James, once again, thank you so much for coming on. Oh, did we lose you? Oh, are you still there, James? Oh. That's good. Well, at least it happened at the end of the cast. I think we may have lost James, but um, I guess I'll just have to say goodbye here. So once again, thank you so much for coming on, and we will chat next week around Thursday at 8 EST on Twitch. And again, the recording will be up probably the next day. Otherwise, that's going to do it for the stream. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you all next time. Oh wait, I think James is back.
Yep. Sorry
Okay.
about that. Mhm.
Oh, Gore says James had left the building. All right, James, I just gave my goodbye. So if you want to say goodbye to the fans, feel free.
Oh, yep. Thank you guys for tuning in again, and would love having you here. And keep listening to Game Wisdom.
Yeah. All right. Well, with that said, have a great night, and by the time our next one goes up, I believe it will be Valentine's Day. So for
Oh,
everyone
wow.
with a significant other, have a happy happy Valentine's Day. For us dateless folks, have a happy Tuesday. Until next time, have a great night.